We all know about the big businesses that blew up during the pandemic. You know, your Amazons, your Netflixes, your dating apps, your Zooms, etc. But what about the businesses that made money but no one paid attention to? The ones that have been raking it in behind the scenes. Today we'll explore 3 of these hidden gems, so when you open your Fortune 500 company, you'll be ahead of the curve when the next pandemic hits. L'Oreal. Now here's one that you might not have thought would be very profitable during the pandemic. I mean, the beauty industry has understandably seen some hard losses in 2020, what with no one needing to dress up in order to go out. Unless you're dressing up to go to a fancy dinner. And by fancy dinner, I mean the 5th trip to the fridge you did in the last hour. Now, most of you have already heard of L'Oreal. It's one of the biggest skincare and beauty product suppliers in the world, because you're worth it and all that. And a big part of the company focuses on hair and beauty products, with L'Oreal Active and Elvive being the most popular. Now, what's interesting is that L'Oreal is one of the only companies who managed to stay profitable, at least by the last quarter of 2020. Now don't get me wrong, L'Oreal still took a hefty reduction in revenue in the beginning of 2020, especially with its Luxe and Professional line of products, which fell by 10%. But what distinguished L'Oreal is that it invested heavily in its e-commerce section significantly early. And so they were ready when online sales went up by 52% from the year before. Now e-commerce makes up about 20% of total L'Oreal sales, which shows that online shopping really is the way of the future. And the pandemic did nothing but accelerate this transition to online shopping. With the pandemic, we've advanced by 5 years on the digital side, said the chairman and chief executive, Jean-Paul Agon. If L'Oreal hadn't caught this growing demand for online shopping, it would have joined all the other beauty companies that took significant losses during the pandemic. And at the same time, one big need that everyone had to deal with during the pandemic was learn to manage your goddamn hair. I, for example, have quite short hair on a normal day, but by the beginning of June, I had to start turning my hair upside down in order to wash it because it was so long. But enough of my hair grooming rituals. The point is hairdressers were closed for a long time, and so people needed to take care of their hair all by themselves. And guess what company has a massive selection in hair and skin products? That's right, L'Oreal. Products like Elvive are massive among women in particular and aim to easily protect and manage hair follicles, something that's very important when you have to take care of your own hair for a year. Was hair dyes and skincare products like Active brands, which rose by 13.2% like for like compared to last year. And by the last quarter of 2020, L'Oreal had made over 7.88 billion euros, so it is definitely clear to see that L'Oreal is still reining in the big bucks. But it just found a different, smarter way to do it. Fortunately, for L'Oreal and for my sanity, the lockdown is ending, and so this means a bunch of crazed adults are screaming to go outside and socialize. Naturally, this means their sales on makeup and glamour products are going to shoot right back up. But the interesting thing is that this period where many men and women had to learn to take care of their hair at home is without a doubt going to shape the future of hair maintenance. Now, a lot of people have concrete proof that they can take care of their own hair, which could potentially lead to a lot more general sales in hair maintenance products, which could go on for years to come. Now, that's not to say that hairdressers or luxury products won't be needed, but maybe they might become a bit more sporadic. Instead of every month, it can be every few months just to keep everything in order, while the day-to-day management is done at home. Now, on the other hand, many people, including Agon, the current CEO of L'Oreal, have said that the pandemic may well be kicking off another roaring 20s, where people will want to go out a lot and are just more sociable. After years of anxiety, there will be a feeling of freedom, of wanting to party and go out and socialize again, and to wear makeup and perfume. If this really does become the case long term, then L'Oreal might well be in the best position to take advantage of this boom in sales. Essay Writing Service. Next we have Essay Writing Service UK, a company known for, well, writing essays for students. Name, I guess. But what's really boosted their profits during 2020 was how COVID affected education. Now, fun fact, I was in my last year of university when the pandemic first hit, and let me tell you, of all the places to be during a pandemic, hospitals were still the worst places to be. But universities were a very close second. Nobody knew what the fuck was going on with anything, and to be fair, it sounds like they still don't. Pretty much the only thing universities decided on was to move all their assessments online for obvious social distancing reasons. However, what this meant for a lot of university students was that since they weren't in strictly time-controlled environments, there was a lot more room to cheat, where you can request any essay up to any word limit and get it in less than 12 hours for a substantial fee. And because universities had to allow a certain amount of time for international students to submit their work, this meant students had more than enough time to ask for a little external help, if you know what I mean. Sure, the price may be quite steep, especially if you need an essay written and sent to you on the same day. But I guess when you spend over $9,000 per year on tuition, why not a couple extra hundred just to make sure you pass? And it seems like this idea became super popular during the pandemic, because it's been reported that over 1,000 different essay writing websites are said to be in operation in the UK alone. But why the sudden increase in university cheating? A former academic barrister named Dr. Daniel Sokol thinks that this increase in frequency of academic cheating is because there is a degree of separation now that we have strictly online classes. You only talk to your lecturers and tutors through a screen. I mean, if people on the internet think that it's okay to bully and threaten others just because they hide behind a screen, I see no reason why that isn't the same for university students cheating online. Now, Dr. Sokol told The Telegraph in an interview, "When I was in Oxford, students felt that they had a duty towards their tutors, and cheating would have felt like a serious and shameful breach of trust." And another company by the name of Chegg, a homework site based in the US, has even been charged with sending real-time exam answers to students, which further shows how online learning has been taken advantage of during the pandemic. And look, I'm not saying I agree with it, because it's unfair and cheating after all, but what I am saying is I see where they're coming from. University students are already under so much stress and pressure during a normal year. Now add a global pandemic which is forcing changes in the way that they have to do exams and tests, and it all just becomes a bit too much at this point. Especially when you're someone who finds it hard to study at home. What do you do in that situation? Wineries. Here's one that's a little odd. I mean, drinking your sorrows away has definitely been most people's method of coping with staying inside forever. But wineries in particular have seen a boom in sales this past year. Especially when you take into consideration that lockdowns have had vineyards and factories shut down, almost across the board, forcing wineries to slow their production and costing them millions just to stay open. But when backed into a corner, you find the most innovative solutions. Take Fernando Mora, for example, a proprietor of Bodegas Frontonio and Cuevas de Arom in Spain. He has found a creative way to drive sales up by introducing a members club subscription fee, where he can then sell wine directly to customers. Also, just like how we talked about how subscription fees inspire customer loyalty with Bumble, these fees also inspire loyalty to Fernando's wines, especially when he has taken a bigger online presence to engage with his customers on Instagram via live sessions, and even doing live tasting sessions with his customers. What is particularly interesting is that some wineries are also even doing partnerships with cheese purveyors in order to enhance these live tasting sessions, and making it resemble the real experience a lot more. This kind of interaction was crucial to helping sell his wines, because not only were the customers paying for wines and getting to engage with the owner of the brand, but they could also get exclusive advice on what to perfectly pair with the wines themselves. And since one of the biggest hobbies people took on during the pandemic was to do more home cooking, with over 55% of shoppers admitting they eat more at home, according to an Acosta report, or have Zoom cocktail parties with friends, this was a brilliant move on Mora's part. Now he had customers who wanted the casual or not so casual drinking night at home to forget about their troubles, which definitely meant an increase in repeat purchasing. But he also had the increasing demand and trend for home cooking, which coincidentally pairs so nicely with his selection of wines. But now that the pandemic is slowly ending, wineries must also adapt to what the aftermath of the pandemic will look like. It is likely social distancing will still remain for a few months while wineries slowly begin to settle back to the new normal. Laws have now been put in place, which are benefiting the winery industry massively. For example, in the US, 32 states now allow for licensed retail delivery of wine, which is helping wineries to distribute and supply customers with their products more easily. So much so that the wine sales increased up to 267% in May of 2020, with revenue quadrupling to more than $1 million a day. Also, the pandemic has forced many in the industry to embrace new forms of technology, which, especially in the winery industry, have been long overdue. Simple tools such as GoToMeeting.com, a conference call app, were never used before the pandemic because owners were stuck in their old ways. But now it is impossible to go without. Mike DeLoach, owner and president of MD Wine Industry Consulting, says, "This really has forced us to adopt a lot of these tools and best practices that have actually been in existence for a long time," and goes on to say how the implementation of these tools has increased productivity massively, just by making meetings and engaging with different branches of his businesses much easier. And those were the 5 businesses that succeeded during the pandemic, where many others failed. Now, what can we take from all these business success stories? Is it just a case of being lucky, or being able to see the future for that matter? If that were the case, I think reading and learning about success stories would be a lot more depressing. In reality, a lot of these businesses succeeded because they could read trends and saw where the future of their respective markets were going. For L'Oreal, it was supplying customers with the skin and hair maintenance they needed during their time stuck at home. I think the surge in online shopping that's been happening since the pandemic started will most likely never truly die down to pre-pandemic days. Especially now that many companies are planning on at least merging in working from home into the normal work week. This means that online shopping will only continue to grow, and companies like L'Oreal, who already have a head start on transitioning to online sales, will be one step ahead of the competition. If you're thinking of starting a business, or maybe already have your own, the biggest takeaway from learning about these businesses is this: anticipating the needs of your target market, while basic, will always make or break your business. And the more research or the more work you put into engaging and finding out firsthand what your audience is looking for is what will help your business grow. And those were the 3 businesses that succeeded during the pandemic, where many others struggled and even failed. Hi guys, thanks for making it to the end of the video. Make sure to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button if you like what we do here. We tend to do a lot of deep dives into businesses and analyze what makes them tick, what they did right, what they did wrong, everything like that. If you want us to do a deep dive on a specific business that you're interested in, make sure to leave a comment down below. And also make sure to comment down below if you found any businesses that did really well in the pandemic, but nobody knows about. Thanks guys.